A Fox News alert now. ISIS now setting its sights on Christmas markets, hoping to mimic the carnage of last year's truck attack in Berlin. But Christians aren't the only ones being targeted, and Egypt is now vowing revenge for Friday's bloody rampage at a packed mosque. So what needs to be done to crush the radical ideology? Here to discuss is former member of the Israeli Special Counter-Operations Terrorism Unit, Aaron Cohen. Mr. Cohen, as always, good to see you here. And I'm going to start out with what Americans are worried about. What should our officials here in the U.S. be doing so that terror does not strike between now and Christmas?
Well, there's no way to stop terrorism. We haven't been able to stop it in Israel. We can slow it down. You slow it down by cranking up your intel gathering. Intelligence is the most critical layer of counterterror operations. You need actionable intelligence. So once you've got the intelligence game hammered down, then you can deploy military forces, special operations units to go and neutralize and kill those terrorist leaders. Those are what you want. That's what we want to do. We want to kill the terrorist leaders or capture them alive so that we can interrogate them and then prevent future attacks from happening here in the States. So I want to differentiate. Certain terrorists you want to kill, the mid-level ones. The leaders you want to capture so you can get more juice. You can squeeze them and you can prevent further attacks. The other thing that we need to be looking at here, since the intelligence in our country is still sort of finding itself. There's so many lone wolves out there. There's so much action we're seeing in Egypt right now. ISIS is still operating abroad. We need to bolster the defense while we're figuring out the intel. So what does that mean? It means that we need to get our soft target security up and increased incrementally and more aggressively, specifically for the holidays. And I mean that cities and counties, wherever there's crowds, there needs to be soft targets, security, and it's got to be armed security. It's got to be able to respond with a appropriate amount or more aggressive amount of force. So if somebody comes in shooting, you have to be able to respond with an equal amount or more aggressive amount of gunfire. So that means the private sector and releasing some federal money to be able to bolster the security specifically for the holidays here. That's where I come out.
Let's talk a little bit about your views on the private sector participating in this effort. Two questions. One, who pays for it and where are these individuals deployed?
Well, let's scrap the $7 billion waste of mall cop money that we're spending on the TSA. Let's squeeze them out. Let's hand that over to the FBI and let the federally trained professionals of the Federal Bureau of Investigation start to take over, or let them put together some kind of special security screening apparatus for the actual check-in. Stop looking for weapons, start looking at behavior. There's $7 billion or at least $3 billion that's released from there, and then start feeding that to the cities so that they can start giving out contracts to private sector companies that are hiring vets that can function under stress, that have been operating in forward areas, that are comfortable in and around terrorism. Get them armed, get them in uniform, and get them plain clothed, get them some additional active shooter response training, start bolstering the private industry. I would start squeezing that money out of the TSA. You got $8 billion there and we're still taking off our shoes, if you know what I mean. Right. There's a lot of work to be done there, so we can start squeezing that money out from there. That's where I would go.
In the 15 seconds we have remaining, will the appropriate authorities take the steps that you recommend?
Probably not, and the reason why is there's a lot of steps that have to be done. So there's going to be a lot more of this run, hide, fight, report, situational awareness. We need to keep our eyes open and report. And the problem is it's not reporting and running and hiding doesn't stop the terrorists. So I don't think we're there yet. I don't think we're going to see a lot of different things happening, particularly for these holidays. But hopefully by this time next year, we'll be having a different conversation. There'll be some more layers in place. I have faith in the president that he's aggressive, and that's a positive sign. So we'll see.
Aaron Cohen, insightful and eye-opening as always. Thank you very much, sir.